Rather lads, welcome back to Kossi's Arsenal podcast. My name is Kossi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in all parts of the world. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to a brand new video. There is a lot happening around Arsenal and in and the transfer market. But of course, Mikel has also been speaking to the media ahead of our Aston Villa clash. And he has just confirmed that there is a new scan that will happen on Thomas Partey, that will take place on Thomas Partey. That means he will not be available for the Aston Villa game. Alexander Zinchenko is also highly unlikely to feature in that game, so that will push Arsenal further to get a new midfielder. We are talking of Danilo from Palmeiras. Arsenal have asked for information about Danilo, and it looks like if we are going to sign a midfielder, it is going to be that 21-year-old Brazilian. Now, I can confirm that the interest in Danilo is not new. We wanted him in January, but a deal was highly unlikely. According to some reports, a deal for Danilo, in this summer is still very unlikely, as Palmeiras would want to keep the player at least for another season. We are also talking about Cody Gakpo in this one. According to Melissa Reddy, Arsenal have asked for information about Cody Gakpo. They consider him as one of the options that are still doable in the transfer market, but Rudy Galletti thinks otherwise. He thinks Arsenal are 100% locked on the move to sign Mudryk. Talks are ongoing between us and Shakhtar. Did I say Shakhtar? Shakhtar FC in Ukraine to reach an agreement. Now, Rudy Galletti is one of those journalists that I really love. Doesn't post any nonsense. Posts only when he has the right information, and only posts news that he's really sure of. So, Mudryk, could a deal be reached between Shakhtar and Arsenal around £25 million? You're going to know everything in this video. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the podcast as well. We are growing very fast to 58,000 subscribers. And also make sure we get this video to 1,000 likes. Now, let's start off with the midfield situation, because Mikel has been speaking to the media just like I told you. And he said with Alexander Zinchenko and Thomas Partey, you do not expect them to feature in the Aston Villa game. Now, that is not the worst piece of news today, because the worst piece of news is that Thomas Partey is injured, and the backup for Thomas Partey is injured worse. That is the worst part of the story that we have actually seen today. So Partey unavailable for Aston Villa, Alexander Zinchenko unavailable for Aston Villa. Arsenal are waiting for the scan results on the hamstring of Mohamed Elneny, and that will determine our transfer strategy. The thought and the belief around the club is that we want to go for one good midfielder or one good winger in the last days of the window. So it is highly unlikely that Arsenal will sign two players in this window because of the budget. They want to sign one player, and they want to, commit all the resources to that one talent. So we are discussing a couple of names here. Let's start off with Danilo at Palmeiras, another 21-year-old left-footed defensive central midfielder. I really like him. Now, I did a couple of reports. I read a couple of reports. I looked at him in January. He's a quality guy. He's a very, very quality midfielder. And the fact that he can play in those two positions, in central midfield and also in defensive midfield, absolutely amuses me. Because for me, look, I'm looking at a holding midfielder. I'm looking at a new defensive midfielder, someone who can hold the ball, but also someone who can distribute it. If you look at his statistics on the SofaScore website and his heat maps as well, Danilo is a quality midfielder. And I know many Arsenal fans don't know much about him, and many Arsenal fans could reject him. I'm case number one for rejecting the players without experience. But at only 21 years of age, I would definitely take Danilo. His quality, his absolute quality. I mean, it just reminds me of Bruno Guimaraes, reminds me of that caliber of players. Very aggressive on the ball, but very calm when passing it. Happy to hold the ball, very happy in tight situations, and it's going to be distributing that ball all over their pitch. Now, there are a couple of difficulties when it comes to this deal. Arsenal want to pay around £25 million. Palmeiras do not have a problem with that valuation. They still value the player at the same price. The problem is they do not want to sell. Hell no, I just hate discussing and negotiating with clubs that are so hell-bent on not selling. They make everything difficult on earth, unless otherwise. So look, we only have less than 48 hours to the closure of the transfer window. Palmeiras have what we need, but we don't have what they need. They would rather keep away from the money. They would rather keep the player than cashing on him. And that is a very, very difficult situation, because here you're thinking, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Do we wait until January? Do we wait until the summer? But our conditions do not actually permit us to do that. Currently, we do not have a holding midfielder, and the likes of Ruben Neves that we can go for are extremely expensive. So Danilo, there is information asked by Arsenal. There are no talks between us and Danilo's representatives, no talks between us and Palmeiras. We are only exploring the deal. But just like I said, for only exploratory reasons, it's a difficult one to do. It's a very, very difficult one to do. Palmeiras don't want to sell. Danilo, I don't think, is going to push for a move, right? So they want to keep him for another season. Arsenal are desperate, and I hate being desperate, because when you're desperate, you're going to you're going to make a panic buy. That is one. If you don't do that, you will try to sign everyone and end up with no one, which is dangerous, or you'll end up with the wrong buy, right? And I just don't like that, right? I don't want to pay I don't want to overpay huge amounts of money for a player, whether they are the correct guy or wrong guy. I don't want that. But I don't want to pay any penny for the wrong guy. You don't want that to happen. So let's wait and see what happens. But according to more of the stories coming in, Arsenal want to wait for the scan results of El Neni and Thomas Partey to see what exactly should we be doing in this transfer window. Do we go for a more experienced defensive midfielder? Do we go for some kind of short fix? Do we go for some long-term, guy? What exactly do we do? Because if Thomas Partey is going to have a recurring injury every season, it doesn't make any sense. It's 45 million pounds, I understand, but we need to get him out. As simple as that. We need to be that ruthless. Look, with Mohamed El Neni, I don't know what to say, guys. I don't know what to say, because El Neni has just extended his contract. Whether he doesn't play this season, I don't even care. I absolutely don't even care if he doesn't play this season. So for me, my focus is on Thomas Partey. And we all know that he has picked up a recurring injury, and it is not healing, and it's not going to heal tomorrow, because yesterday it didn't heal. So let's get someone that can play in the position, and the name is Danilo right now on the table. Now, Melissa Reddy, Sky Sports, has been speaking about Cody Gakpo and the future. Now, the player himself was speaking about his future, I think, to ESPN a couple of days ago. And he said the transfer of Anthony to Man United has no way of affecting my future. I will explore my options. If the right option is to leave, then I will move on. If the right option is to stay, then I will stay as well. So right now, according to Melissa Reddy, keep an eye on Cody Gakpo. Arsenal have asked for information about him as well, including clubs like Everton, including clubs like Southampton. My information tells me that Everton and Southampton have both seen bids of around 20 to 25 million euros rejected by PSV Eindhoven. So look, come on, Everton, you need to pay the money. Southampton, you don't have the money. Rest. But this is what I'm going to say here with Cody Gakpo. I just hate deja vus. Those are the things I hate in my life. I hate deja vus. Deja vus for the right reasons, I'm okay. Deja vus for the wrong reasons, I hate such things. For example, when we talk about signing a central midfielder every summer, right? Every summer it comes back. It becomes a boring deja vu. It becomes nonsensical. So Cody Gakpo is available, but we're trying so hard to I don't know what we're trying to do here. I don't know what we are trying to do by jumping on the Wilfried Zaha cart. Then it strolls away. Then we fall down. Then we jump onto another cart. Are we acting out of bandwagon? Since when in this transfer window have we acted in response to bandwagon? Since when? Honestly. So, Cody Gakpo, Arsenal have asked for information. I think the story doesn't even make any sense for me because we already have the information on Cody Gakpo. The players publicly come out and said leaving PSV is okay with me. If a club can come in, convince me about their project, give me the money I want, pay the money PSV and Hoven want, I will definitely move on. PSV have also made it very, very clear that after their clash with Rangers, where they were dropped, did they drop into the Europa League? I think they did because it was the UCL playoffs and they lost to Rangers. So sad. They lost to Rangers in the Netherlands. I actually thought they were going to win that game. I was so wrong about them, right? So Cody Gakpo is now for sale. He is free to leave. And I think my instinct tells me if any club wants to buy him, this is the right time. If you don't buy him now, if you don't pay the money now, Cody Gakpo is going to cost double in the next 3 years. Because listen, Anthony is 100 million euros. PSV are going to look at Anthony and they'll be like, if Cody Gakpo doesn't move this summer, we are giving him a new contract and we are putting a 250 million release, euro release clause in his contract. And then I won't be very surprised for Arsenal to be stumbling back there. We want Cody Gakpo, and then you'll have to pay in excess of 75 million in the next 2-3 years. So Cody Gakpo is a ripe opportunity. It's one of those deals that will probably end up at Newcastle, Southampton, which other club? Everton. And I will be very sad because I think Cody Gakpo and the level of development at which he is on, if he comes to a club like Arsenal, if he joins a project like Mikel Arteta's, it's going to be hot. He's a very hot prospect. I think Leeds United signed Luis Sinisterra. They signed the right player. Right, I think they signed, a replacement for Rafinha. They got, they went to the right club, but got the wrong player. It was always Cody Gakpo. It had to be always Cody Gakpo. His numbers are insane. In the last 2 seasons, he's averaging double figures in assists and scoring goals. Actually, numerically, statistically, he's performing better than Anthony. And you could get him on a bargain for 30 million pounds. 30 million pounds. That is 60 million pounds less than what Man United paid for Anthony. And you're getting a guy who has dominated Anthony in the Dutch Eredivisie. Last season, Anthony had around, I think it was around 12 to 15 goal involvements. Cody Gakpo, in excess, he had over 25 goal involvements. Over 25 goal involvements in the Dutch Eredivisie. So for me, lads, it's an open book. I'm always open book when it comes to players that I like. I like Cody Gakpo. I've seen him play. He can drift inside as a forward. He can play wide as a winger. He's so good. He's very, very good. And, that kind of height that he has can also, help us, in the final third. I think Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, and Saka are rubbish in the air. I mean, allow me to say that. They're absolutely rubbish in the air. So, with all that, why not get a player like Cody Gakpo? He adds some special attributes to our attacking line as well. But anyway, Melissa already says Everton, Southampton, Arsenal. In there, Arsenal have also asked for information about this guy, but the difference is that the other two have seen bids rejected. Arsenal are yet to send in their official bid. I also want to talk about Idrissa Gueye for a moment. I've been seeing stories that Arsenal have been trying to hijack a deal for Idrissa Gueye to Everton. Well, thank you so much for using Arsenal's name to get some authenticity to your deal. It's bullshit. I don't think Arsenal were trying to get Idrissa Gueye. I don't think so, right? And the reason as to why I don't think so, our priority has been a central midfielder and a winger. The only time we've turned to a defensive midfielder is when Mohamed El-Nene's future becomes uncertain and Thomas Partey is sidelined. Idrissa Gueye's deal was almost completed in the last 48 hours. We have only learned about Mohamed El-Nene's situation in the last 16 hours. So that is bullshit. Idrissa Gueye is 32, isn't he? To Everton, yeah. Of course, The Athletic have just made it very clear today that Arsenal are looking at someone who is going to be in the squad and someone very similar in their pattern of investment. So we are not thinking about Idrissa Gueye, who is 32. And lastly, according to Rudy Galetti, Arsenal and Shakhtar Donetsk are in talks for Mikhailo Mudryk. Now, there is increased optimism that a deal will be struck between the two clubs. We started off with a 10 million euro, difference. Arsenal wanted to pay around 20 million euros, and Shakhtar Donetsk, I think, pounds, and Shakhtar Donetsk wanted around 30 million pounds. So, it only explains why the 35 million euros reportedly sent in by Everton was turned down. I think, Shakhtar will go, if Everton are giving us 35, Arsenal will give us 38 million euros. And they're absolutely right. So according to Rudy Galetti, something that I've really looked at and I'm quite impressed, he says at the moment, Arsenal and PSV are in talks to try to reach an agreement. There has been a discrepancy, but at the moment, they're closing that gap down. Whether we can get it done or not, let's wait and see. 21-year-old left winger from Ukraine can also play on the right side. Arsenal have asked for information in the recent days, according to Fabrizio Romano, and now Rudy Galetti says talks are ongoing very, very smoothly. So this evening, not a lot of positive stories from our team news, but a lot of positive stories when it comes to Arsenal signing in new players. I will let you know if anything happens in this, in the last days of the transfer market, in the last hours of the transfer market. But currently, Arsenal could strike a deal for, Mikhailo Mudryk. We could strike a deal for Danilo if Palmeiras are willing to listen. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter as well. TikTok, Kosi11. Instagram, Kosi_19. Twitter, Kosi Arsenal. Subscribe to my podcasts on YouTube. Kosi Arsenal Podcast, Kosi 90 Mo, and Kosi Talks Football. See you very soon.